finally, it's here. After about 3 months of waiting, I finally got my hands on the Losi Mini LMT, and you can probably tell I've already been putting some wheel time into this little truck. Being that it took me a little longer than most to get mine in, I decided this won't be a typical review video. I just want to go over the things that I like in it and some of the things that I think need a bit of changing. There are many reviews out on YouTube already, complete overviews on this truck that have been out since it first came out, so you can check those out if you want a complete overview on the truck. This is just going to be my thoughts and opinions and how I'm feeling about the truck. My initial impression of the truck had to do with the scale of it. This is my 1/24th scale micro monster truck that you should be pretty familiar with now if you're used to the channel. The Mini LMT, I believe, is marketed as a 1/18th scale, so definitely bigger, but I was actually expecting it to be a little bigger. I'm actually pretty happy with the size. It's still perfect for indoor use, which is why I like the mini and micro trucks so much. You don't really have to go anywhere to have some fun. You can do it indoors. Doesn't matter what the weather's like, still gives you an opportunity for some RC fun. Since this truck is a little bigger than most of the micro trucks I have though, I decided I wanted a little more space for running it, and what better spot than an empty living room in my house. So you'll see I did a whole bunch of running indoors, got a lot of wheel time with this little truck in just the first 24 hours that I had it. Something that I was really concerned about when I pre-ordered this truck was the brushed electronics. If you know me and the channel, I'm full out speed, most power I can get, kind of over the top sometimes, so I was really hoping for brushless, but I figured we could update that in the future if I needed. I was pretty surprised by the speed that this thing has with the brushed electronics. More than enough for indoors like you see here in the living room, and actually felt kind of realistic. One thing I've talked about a lot with my micro monster trucks is the difference in speed. My 3D printed truck here has a good mix of speed, but the Axial SCX24 axles don't let it roll freely, so it's kind of jittery. The FullThrottleRC Rampart truck has that rollout, but the speed is just insane. It's kind of hard to control sometimes. This was the best of both worlds. The hardwood floors I have, a little slippery, but the nice soft rubber tires here still gave me enough grip to jump around, do some stunts, and I even set up a bit of a racetrack in a way and put some laps in. Felt pretty comfortable with the truck. I've already seen a whole bunch of upgrades for the steering servo on these trucks, but I honestly felt like it was pretty speedy. I don't see the need to upgrade that just yet. I guess that could be something you look into if I were to break this servo by any chance, but for now, I think what's in it is perfectly fine. RC wise, one of the things I love the most about this truck is the clipless body mounting system. It uses the same hinge body mounting system as the full-sized LMT, but this one doesn't use body clips. Just some little bitty tabs in here that we turn, and then the body raises off. I love the hinge body mounting on the Losi LMT, but I always have trouble getting those body clips in. Just a weird angle sometimes, but I really like how this is as simple as just turning some little tabs to lock the body in place instead of losing clips or anything like that. Speaking of the body, I still think this truck is the same as the LMT. I kind of think they went a little too big on the body. It's just a personal preference for me, scale wise. If you look at the actual full-scale Monster Jam trucks, I find the bodies are a little smaller when you compare it to the rest of the truck. The chassis, the wheels and tires, that sort of stuff, but that's just a very nitpicky detail for somebody looking at scale. Back to the things that I like about the truck, I really love this twin vertical plate design they went with here. Again, a little off from a scale monster truck aspect, but it works really well for RC to give us some of that realism, but also the platform that works in RC. Lots of shock mounting positions, even sway bars, working sway bars. It's just a really nice chassis setup overall. I think it's awesome that these metal links and these drive shaft ends are included right out the box, not an upgrade option. This is more than strong enough for any kind of bashing you're going to be doing. You can see I landed this thing pretty tough, a lot, just getting used to it, and didn't have any breakages. Although this will mostly be an indoor truck for me, I did want to take it outside. I didn't feel right putting a video out without having any time with it outdoors. Taller grass will slow it up a bit, which is to be expected with these smaller trucks, but it does still handle it pretty well. It doesn't feel too slow outdoors, especially on the dirt. That's when it gets pretty fun. You get that good mix of the more speed without the grass holding it up, but better traction and more realistic turning that you'd normally see out of a monster truck. Speaking of the more realistic driving, there's two things on this truck that I do not like, and they're pretty easy fixes, but wanted to cover them anyway. For one, the diffs in the front and rear. There is basically nothing in there, and that just doesn't lend well to my driving style, at least. If you've seen some of the videos with the full-scale LMT, you see I like to try to save the truck. Truck gets on two wheels, it's really easy to flip it back up and continue driving. This truck, because of the way the diffs are set up, once you get the truck on two wheels or flipping it over, it's almost impossible to save it. You'll lose all power to those two wheels, and all of the power will go on the free wheels. That'll be as simple as just changing out to some heavier diff fluid. I haven't really looked into it yet, but hopefully the diffs are as easy to get out of this truck as they are in the full-scale LMT. My other issue is the shocks. While I love these oil-filled shocks and believe that is a big plus on a little larger scale like this instead of the 1/24 scale trucks, I feel like the suspension is set up just a little too stiff for something this size. It's a pretty solid setup for an out-of-the-box, ready-to-run truck, but I think just a little bit lighter oil in there just to help the suspension react a little more would help us out. I noticed the truck taking some pretty stiff hits on landings and not really soaking up landings like I would have wanted it to. Again, I believe this is just a personal preference thing. Nothing technically against the truck or Losi. This is just a driving style thing with how I like to drive. Even through all of that, in my opinion, this is the new standard in small scale monster truck. From the time that I have wheeling this truck, this is without a doubt one of the most realistic looking driving RC monster trucks I've ever driven. And I guess to explain that better, basically driving this little truck around, even just in my living room, the way it jumps felt like I feel driving a monster truck should feel like. I've mentioned in the past in other videos that the full-scale LMT does give you glimpses of that, but it still feels like a truggy sometimes. And the Axial SMT10, while it can sometimes feel like a solid axle monster truck, that truck just is really fragile unless you put a whole lot of money into it. This feels like a monster truck should feel. I can already tell you this will be the basis of me completely redesigning this truck. I want this in 1/24 scale. It'll definitely take some time, but that's gonna be the goal for the future. Needless to say though, I love this little truck. You'll definitely be seeing a whole lot more of it here on the channel. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like below and let me know in the comments if you got your Mini LMT, what you think of it. If you wanna see more of it on the channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. And as always, thanks again for watching. Peace.